Hey, good evening, guys. Um, I guess I'm gonna wrap a couple of things up together, so bear with me. First thing is, um, this is probably the first week I noticed like nobody wearing masks anywhere. Nobody. Um, I work for HD Supply, and I work two branches in Charlotte. So I go to the other one to pick up stuff to go to delivery. Nobody in there wears masks. They have signs on the door. No one wears masks. None of the customers wear masks. They sent me somewhere else at the end of the day to pick up some straw. There's a sign on the door. They got like these barricades so you can't get close to them. No one wore masks. And it got me like when I walked in with a mask on, this guy looked at me like you're gonna be a troublemaker. And it just got me like how me wearing a mask in a pandemic makes me a threat. Like I just I talk about it often. I just realized when you deal with white people and rednecks, like it's not a surprise that they kill black people, that they have these shootings. Like they're so out of touch with reality of most people, not just the black community, but society in general. They work on Westinghouse, on the border of South Carolina, North Carolina, and it's just like they're so fucking like I wouldn't be surprised if somebody went in the shop while working and asked why I'm wearing a mask. I wouldn't be surprised by that. I wouldn't be surprised by if somebody literally asked why I'm wearing a mask. It's like when I was working for ECM and the guy was like, "Why are we giving all these people free money?" And there's like 40 million people out of work, and you're asking me why they're giving free money. He's from Gastonia. Yeah, that's only he works in Charlotte. A lot of those rednecks in Westinghouse, they don't live in Charlotte. They work there. They're completely out of touch with people who live in the city. It's kind of like the cops. They work in the city. They're supposed to be this liberal police force, but they come from very cloistered white areas. They don't even know any black or brown people other than do with the police department. And then you wonder, um, this is the first week I've noticed this of no one wearing a mask. And I'm listening to David Packman talk about polls, and I'm starting to not really follow that either. And it just hit me, that while I wear masks, people look at me crazy. No one wears masks. And America has been quarantined from the rest of the world. Today, Pompeo went to the UN and attempted to get the world to enforce the JCPOA, the Iran deal that the U.S. pulled out of unilaterally. That was a deal that Iran made with the world. That was not a deal the U.S. made with Iran. That's not how that works. He pulled out of the deal years ago, and now he wants to make the world make Iran pay for some reason. And the world laughed. They laughed him out of there. I mean, it was a joke, and he was insulted. And I realize now you cannot be a world citizen who's concerned about climate change because that's a global problem, concerned about the pandemic, which is a global world problem. States cannot handle a fucking worldwide pandemic. Nations cannot handle a fucking worldwide pandemic. It's fucking stupid. It doesn't, like that sounded stupid when Trump first made that comment about states handling the fucking stupid. So the stockpiles are for it, dumbass, for the states, for the people. There's certain things that as a president, you shouldn't have to read a paper to know that. This is for the people. But as a global citizen, worry about climate change, worry about coronavirus. You cannot be a red-blooded, flag-waving American and be a world citizen. Not at this point. Maybe at one point you could. Not now. Not now. Not just talking about Trump. I'm talking about everything I deal with on a regular basis. I just realized that I'm dealing with cave people in a death cult who think this is all a game, and they're mad at the left. They're mad at Fauci. They're mad at scientists for basically showing science, and they're looking for any way they can to downplay that science. And I just realized that I guess at one time I thought when it came to climate change that, reading through all these books and looking at all this science, that maybe one day I would find something that people didn't know. I win people over. And I realize now that no, because you're talking about white people's idea of the way the world works. And I realize now that they're willing to destroy society. They're willing to let all that climate change stuff happen in order to maintain their status of living. I realize that now. And it's kind of stupid. People could say to me, "It took you this time to figure it out." It's a book. I'm gonna end it here. I listened to this morning. Majority Report was talking about dying of whiteness. How this guy did a book. He was explaining how them taking money in Kansas, taking money away from schools and roads, and how very quickly it deteriorated, doubling up classrooms and such, and how he had talked to a white man. He talked to several white men, but one of them had told him that he would rather, he would rather die. He had kidney problems, liver problems. He ended up dying before the book was even published. And he said that he didn't want to have social stuff because he didn't want to help out hood rats and illegals. And I just realized, like, that's what I'm surrounded by. I'm surrounded by that mindset, that death cult mindset that is willing to run this society right into a brick wall and doesn't really care about how that makes life a lot harder for the average worker. I work out here in the outside. I don't work in the office. Most jobs I've had, I worked outside. Maybe if you work in an office somewhere, you don't have to care about that. But I realize that now, that the climate change debate, the coronavirus debate, that any other pandemics or disasters in the future are going to be similar. It's going to come down to people who agree with science and people who just want to fight for. I'm tell you like this: some folks fight for equality, and some folks fight for brunch. I wouldn't call it brunch, but that's the way I heard it. That's what it is. That's any kind of crisis in the future. That's what it's going to pretty much, the lowest common denominator. That's what's going to come down to, is just, I want to keep living the way I've been living, and I don't care if it hurts others. Selfish, if you ask me. Peace.